Hi everyone, Russ Thomas here from RST Coaching Academy. Welcome to a new episode of Money Talks, where we talk about money and how to make more of it. Hello there, everybody out in internet land. Welcome to another episode of Money Talks, where we talk about money and how to make more of it. This is Russ, the head of Money Talks, your head money maker, I hope. And I'm the owner and president of RST Coaching Academy here in Daytona Beach. Today, it is my privilege to interview an individual that I haven't talked with anybody in this realm before. My new friend, Greg Mohr, is a franchise expert. And so we talk about business ownership. I've always known that there's two American dreams. One is home ownership. The other one is business ownership. Well, Greg has this coming from this direction of, instead of creating the wheel, why don't you buy into somebody else's wheel and piggyback off of their success? And that's what this is all about. And so it's my privilege to introduce to you Greg Mohr. Greg, where are you from, by the way?
Russ, I'm from Licking, Missouri, out in the Ozarks.
Okay, out in the Ozarks. Probably a little chilly there, perhaps. I know it is cold here in Daytona Beach. So, hey, I'm going to turn it over to you right now, Greg, and just tell us a little bit about your story, your background, how you got into this game, and what are the great things you see in franchising for anybody from any walk of life that wants to go that route. We're going to try to go around, 30, 40 minutes and stuff. So we'll just keep it moving along, and I'll interrupt you from time to time with questions and stuff. So Greg, take it away. Have fun.
Sounds good, Russ. I appreciate you having me today. It's an honor. So getting my start in franchising. So that takes us back a little ways to my high school days, actually. Back in the late 70s when I was in high school, most of us who got our start went to work for a fast food place. That was just the place to go, the easiest place to get a job. I ended up at Taco Bell. And unbeknownst to myself at the time, I was actually working for a master franchisor, and she owned about 50 Taco Bells. And I lived in Woodland, California, and she owned them in Woodland and Davis and Sacramento area out there. So I started moving up in the Taco Bell world, started managing restaurants, and her restaurants. And I found out that she was a master franchisor, and I was helping her grow her businesses, grow her different franchises throughout the Sacramento, California area.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So you were doing this in high school.
Right.
And then you kept doing it after high school.
About 4 years.
Correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
For 4 years?
Yep.
Did you go to college in the meantime, or this was it?
This was college? It. During that period, Russ, that was it. Just working at Taco Bell.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. From about 78 to about 82, I think it was that I did that, from 16 to about 20. After that, I moved up into other restaurants. I loved running the restaurants. It was really great working for her as a manager, because I'd go into her Taco Bells, and it was the exact same playbook. Any restaurant that you went into, any location, it was always the same. That was really fun. I enjoyed that a lot. But then I moved up to another restaurant chain, Alliance restaurant chains throughout Northern California, did that, and ended up managing restaurants the whole time for about 15 years on that one. Then I went to school. I decided it was time to try something different. Then I went back to school, got a degree in electrical engineering and physics, went to work for Motorola Semiconductor.
A little bit different.
A little bit different, a little challenge on that. But I enjoy the change. I did that for about 15 years. And while I was doing that, I started getting my degree in my master's degree in business, and ended up getting a master's degree in business. But while I was doing that, I read Robert Kiyosaki's books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which just about ruined my corporate career for me. I knew there had to be something better out there. And I was always trying to improve myself and better myself. So I went and got a couple of rental properties. And then a friend of mine, another engineer, and myself, we bought a dry cleaners. We had some drop-off locations, and we had some storage units. So I did that for a while, but eventually I got out of the corporate world, the engineering field, and decided that I want to do something for myself. After reading Robert Kiyosaki's book, it's like, I got to do something myself. 30 years in corporate world. I didn't have the latest, greatest idea. So I thought back to my days as a Taco Bell manager running those franchises, and I thought that franchising thing was awesome. I really liked that. It was really simple, really easy to get into. So I started clicking around all over the place, trying to figure out which franchise would be best for me. Very confusing. A lot of franchises out there, about 5,000 or so in the US.
Wow.
So many choices, big maze of stuff. But I finally got a hold of a franchise consultant of all things. And the franchise consultant really cleared things up for me, really had a nice streamlined process for figuring out what was good for me. And I got into a Schooley Mitchell telecommunications consulting franchise. And the gentleman that owned it, Dennis Schooley, he was great. He really set the stage for the franchising for me with all his training, his step-by-step processes. I never had to wonder or guess what was going to happen next. It was right there in black and white. And he had a mentor, as you mentioned earlier, he had a mentor for me that helped me out. I had great training, went to his place for training, and then followed up with me on a regular basis to make sure that I was moving along.
How many of those locations did he have around the country or where?
Dennis Schooley, he's got a couple hundred of them now, or more than that. He's got quite a few. He does quite good. He started out in Canada and moved to the United States. Very successful.
All right. So that was your entrance into the franchise world for yourself.
For myself, Russ, that is correct.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually did that for a while. And then what I really decided is that, so doing that, I was going out to talking to business people on a regular basis. And I lived in the time in Texas, near Austin, Texas, and I worked in Austin, Texas at the Motorola Semiconductor Factory. But I lived in a town called Latonia, which was about an hour out of Austin. So what I had to do was drive into town, a few times a week and go and talking to business people about their telecommunications needs. And I was thinking after a while, I didn't really like driving as much as I thought I would around to do that, even though it was my own business. I could work my own hours, do whatever I wanted on that. So I went back to the franchise consultant. I said, I really like what you do because you get to work from home. You get to talk to interesting people all over the United States. So teach me how you do that. How do you do this franchise consulting thing? So then I sold off my telecommunications business, left that one, and then got into franchise consulting. And that was about 12 years ago. And I haven't looked back since.
So now you became what he was, the guy that taught you everything you know. You became one yourself and are passing that knowledge and experience on to other people.
Correct, Russ. It was a great thing. It really changed my life for the better on that, because now I could do what I want to do. They got a nice playbook for it. And I thought this franchising thing is a really good idea to get out to other people, other aspiring entrepreneurs that want to get out of the corporate world or even stay in the corporate world and just do a business on the side semi-passively. Great way to build wealth. You know,
you mentioned, when people think about franchise, they'll think of the big dogs like Taco Bell, McDonald's, Burger King, the kind of thing that the average individual is not going to have, $250,000 or more money to invest in. But with 5,000 franchises around the country, there's probably something for everybody and something perhaps at every price point as far as the buy-in is concerned. Would you agree?
Oh, you're absolutely correct, Russ. And you're right about that. When we drive around, you and I drive around, that's what we see all the time is those brick and mortar franchises. That's what we call them. Basically, you build it and they will come. Sort of theme on that. But for a price, as you indicated, $250,000 total investment on up, way up into that. So that's what everybody sees. And those you can do full-time or you can do semi-passive. So a lot of people don't realize that not every franchise you have to get into, do you have to work that full-time. You can still keep your day job, keep your other business, do it on the side, 10 to 15 hours a week, managing a manager. But the things we don't see on a regular basis is the services industry franchises. Those are where your clients don't necessarily know you exist until they need you. So like my franchise that I was in, you need a good franchise that's going to drive people to you when the need arises or knows how to go out and find those people and teaches you how to do that. Those franchises where you're working from home like I did, or a small office, you're looking at 150,000, maybe even 100,000 or less if you're working from home and going out and visiting with your clients. So the total buy-in isn't as great as a brick and mortar franchise. And yes, as you indicated, Russ, many different industries that you can do: service industry, tutoring, senior care, home improvement, office cleaning, many different things that you can do.
So 100,000 is a normal starting point for some of these franchises.
Correct, Russ. So what
Okay.
you're gonna be looking at there, Russ, is that there's going to be a one-time franchise fee that you're going to pay on that.
All right.
So the one-time franchise fee is going to be pretty much the same for almost all the franchises, whether it be a big brick and mortar or, a small service industry, generally around $50,000, give or take. And that
Okay.
gets you all the training you need to get that business in operation, to get it up and running. The ongoing fees that you'll have are going to be the royalties, which are between 5 and 10%, depending on what
Right.
the franchise does for you.
Right.
That's their motivation to make certain that you do well. If you do well, you're paying more royalties. They do well on that one. So one-time franchise fee, $50,000, give or take. Some are a little bit less, some are a little bit more, but right around that. The rest of the money that you're going to be investing in the franchise is whatever it takes to get that business built up. So the brick and mortar, you've got another 250, 300,000 or more to build that out, because you're building up a location. If you're doing the services industry, now you're looking at either a small office or working from home. So most of the extra money that you're investing in is going to be advertising and marketing.
I see. Okay. Yeah. The marketing part. And when you're starting from scratch, so to speak, your own business, you're hanging out your own shingle. And so marketing, from my experience and training with Grant Cardone, is job one, to get known in the marketplace. They're not going to buy from you if they don't know you, if they don't know who you are and where you are and how to reach you. So marketing is a big one. So that's where the other, like you were suggesting, maybe another $50,000 could, give or take, could come into play, is to get this ball rolling, basically. Okay. What has been your experience with a potential franchisee not having the $50,000 or the $100,000 total to get going, as far as being able to approach their bank for money, SBA loan or a bank loan from their home bank? Is that something that banks are interested in, are open to? How would somebody get financing for their project typically?
Great question, Russ. And there's two different parts that you mentioned in there to it. One, your local bank may or may not be interested in investing in, giving you money for whatever it is that you're investing in on that one. I don't have a whole lot of people that go to their local banks.
Okay.
We have people as franchise consultants that do loans for franchises all the time.
Oh.
So there's two, when the bank or any financial institution is giving you money, they're going to want to know about that business. If it's a privately owned business, they're going to want to see a track record of how that business is going if you're buying into it. If it's a franchise already has a proven record of success and picking out the right franchisees so they continue to be successful. So that part's easy. My funding people, they've got that down. Almost any franchise I can get funding for. It just comes down to your credit, basically. That's all there is to it. As long as you've got great credit, 680, 700 credit score or more, it's a simple process. You can do standard SBA loans, you can do term loans. But again, I've got a few different people that'll do that for you. If you're looking at the services industry, you're looking at probably an SBA. If you want to go the SBA route, you'd be looking at an express loan for about $150,000. You put down about $20,000, and then my funding institutions put in the rest of the money. So they'll take care of the whole thing for you. The one thing that it's going to come down to is your net worth on that. So the bank's going to look at that, and the franchise is going to look at that as well. And the reason they are looking at that net worth is they want to make certain that you don't run out of money on that.
Right.
So if you're looking at the brick and mortar franchises, you're going to be needing around a $400,000 or $500,000 net worth or more.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part. The services industry, not quite so much. 100,000, 200,000 net worth, and you're pretty good to go. So you can fund the whole thing, including the franchise fee, through an express loan on one of the services franchises. And again, you don't have to work it full time. There's many that you can do semi-absentee as well, so you can do it on the side.
Wow, that's cool. I think that's really neat that you have got in your bag lenders that are willing to do this private lending operation above and beyond the bank. For whatever reason, maybe the individual, the franchisee, isn't going to work with their bank or even the SBA, but you've got these people that are available to fund. It's kind of like private mortgage funding and stuff, or private equity funding, kind of a thing. And I imagine there's maybe a little higher interest rate for that, but nevertheless, it still allows the doors to open up to the prospective franchisee to get this thing off the ground. Correct? Which is
The
a good
rates are pretty
deal.
much they're not anymore. They're good.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
standard rates because
Yeah.
of the fact that that franchise has that proven track record of success. So they
Okay.
know that, when we get together, you and I, Russ, and we look at a franchise for you, you're going to be vetting out those franchises pretty good. You're going to be taking a good close look at them to make certain that they're good for you. The franchise is going to do the same thing. They're going to look at Russ and they're going to say, are you good? They're not just going to sell you a franchise. They're going to make certain you qualify for it financially and your background,
Yeah.
and you're a good person for that business on that. So the funding people know that, and they know that most of the franchises we work with, and you'll see it in the franchise disclosure documents, they've got a success rate of around 85, 90%. And those funding people are looking for things like that. So they already see that. So the rates are standard rates. They're nothing out, astronomical or out of the ordinary. They're good, solid
Well,
rates, just like
that's
if you
nice
get
to
a house
know.
or something. Yeah.
I hope you're listening to this, people online here, that it's not that hard. You do have to have some cash to put down to cover your portion of, say, the down payment, but it's definitely a doable deal. And as the franchisee is investigating the franchise, the franchise is investigating the franchisee, because their name and reputation are at stake, aren't they? They want you to be as successful as you can be, because it definitely makes them look good in the long haul, and everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. And it's not something that typically that a person has to be at full time. I think you indicated that some are, absentee, so to speak. They've invested, but they're not in the day-to-day operation of the business. I suppose there are some franchises that require owner involvement, but not all of them. So is the service related, is that pretty much your specialty that
No,
you
my specialty is working with clients, whatever they want.
whatever they want? Okay.
Yeah. So
All
I
right.
go either route. It's just what I do is I go through the process with folks and I find out where have they been? So what do you bring to the table?
Uh-huh.
So the boxes in your attic are golden. So what are the boxes in your attic? The boxes in your attic are what you have in your head, what you've done in the past, all that experience. Great opportunities there. You've done it before. You've done things like that. So your experiences are great. Franchises like them on that. And then I go through and say, where do you want to be? So where are you at now? And then where do you want to be? So then that's where we start looking at different franchises, brick and mortar, services industry. Where do you see yourself? How do you feel about them on that? So they're both, the amount of money you can make on each is probably pretty close to the same or close enough to the same. It doesn't matter. A little bit more of an investment in the brick and mortar versus services. It's just a different business on that. So it's really a matter of how my clients feel about it and what do they picture themselves really doing out there.
Okay.
What do they really feel good about?
All right. So you're not married to any particular industry or any particular company. You're married to the client and what's
Correct.
best for the client.
Correct.
That's a good way to go. Good way to go. Client first, and you'll take care of them, whatever needs to be done. And I imagine you charge a fee for your services, for your consulting services.
No,
No,
I'm free. Believe it or
you
not.
are.
Yeah, everybody's amazed at that. How can you be free? So I work with about 500 different franchises on that. I get to know them pretty well. If you decide to invest in one of the franchises I introduce you to, they pay me a referral fee.
I see. Okay.
So there's never any charge to you for my services.
So that's where Greg makes his millions, is in the referral fees. And
Yep.
and still you're not married to any of these franchisees. Like I said, you're married to the client to make sure that they get the best deal that's going to work for them.
Absolutely, Russ, because they're going to tell all their friends about me after they get into a franchise and they're successful and their friends and the family see how successful they are. They're going to say, where did you find that franchise? And they're going to say, I didn't find it. Greg found it for me. And they're going to send
Yeah.
me more people. So,
Yeah, indeed. That's the way it goes.
yep.
Right on. Okay, let me just look at your little sheet here. One of the things in your speaker kit here talks about the trade-off between time and monetary investment. What do you mean by that?
Correct. So one of the things that we'll take a look at, Russ, when you and I sit down and talk about which franchise you want, is how much time are you going to want to invest and how much money are you going to want to
Okay.
invest? So
Okay.
quite a few people are looking for that time with their family. They've already been in the corporate world working 9 to 5, 7 to 5, whatever. They need more time on that. And they're really looking for the good work-life balance on those sort of things. So one of the things we go over is how much time do you want to invest in it? Or if you're working in a corporate job, are you going to want to leave it right now and just get into your franchise? Or do you want something semi-passive where you're only putting in 10 to 15 hours a week? And maybe you want to leave it right now and still only work, only run the business 10 to 15 hours a week. So we'll look at that time investment on that as one of the many questions I'll ask you is how much time do you want to put into that business? And then your monetary investment is what you're comfortable investing in a franchise. That, amongst many other questions, is what helps me narrow down those 500 franchises I work with.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah, to about 5 or 10 that works good for you and that fit your criteria.
Okay, I understood. That's a good answer. Right on. And how someone can determine if a franchise is the right business model for them.
Yeah, good question there, Russ. That's one of the things that we do along the way. So when I'm working with you, Russ, I'm not going to try and convince you that franchising is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But for some people, it's not. One of the things we're going to find out along the way is if it's right for you. So don't ever worry about, I want to look into it, but, I don't want to waste Greg's time. Don't worry about that. On that, I've been doing this for 12 years. I'm probably one of the top franchise consultants around there. And even amongst us top franchise consultants, we'll introduce 4 people to a franchise and 1 person will invest in the franchise. It's just the way it is. Some people they're not ready to write that check or they're not ready to take that time to do it. Well, we'll figure that out as we start learning from the franchise. So I've had people come back to me
Right.
at a later date after they looked into it and said, okay, I'm ready now. So now may not be the time. 3 years later, I had somebody come back to me and said, I want that franchise. Is it still available? Yeah, it is still available. A month later, he was investing in the franchise. So,
all right. So they were qualified in every sense of the word. And it's just that mentally they weren't ready to pull the trigger, to pull the plug, basically. Some never. And then some, like you said, 3 years down the road and you get a phone call, Greg, hey, still available? Of course it is. How many would you like to buy? Yeah. All right. That's neat. That's neat. Okay, so 7 mistakes to avoid when selecting a franchise.
Yes, there are some things that that I have, and it's on my website too. If anybody wants to take a look at those, my 7 mistakes thing, you can download it from there. But basically, what we want you to do is we want you to understand the business and industry. And as we go through the process, it's all about education on my part. I'm going to educate you about that. So you don't have to be an expert in that industry, but by the time you and I are through, you're going to have a good feel for that industry, the business and the industry. Franchises are looking for people to work on the business and build it up, not working in the business and doing the actual work. So they're looking for more of the business type people who are going to build that business up. So you don't have to have specific knowledge about that industry, but you will understand it by the time we get through. Not enough capital, as you and I were discussing just a moment ago, Russ, about having the necessary net worth on that. So we'll make certain that you have enough capital. Not only myself as we go through the process, you and I, Russ, but also the franchisors as well. We're going to make certain that your capital is right so that you don't run out of money. Another thing to look at is don't let those fads or what's in fashion necessarily cloud your judgment on that. Look at it to make certain that it's going to be around for a while and it's something that you want. Quite a few of my people really like essential services businesses. So you asked if I had a preference, brick and mortar services. I'll do whatever my clients want to look at. But if you really want to look at something that's going to be around for a while, you look at essential services businesses on that. But if it's in fad, just make certain that fad is going to be a while. Orange Theory is a good one that, if you would have jumped on that bandwagon back then, you would have been golden. But it seemed like a fad back then. Now it's, pretty solid throughout the United States, but never let that cloud your judgment. Don't think you're going to be rich in a year or two. It will take some time to build the franchise up. You will get a good feel for it by the time you're through going through the franchise investigation process with me. We'll talk to as many franchisees as it takes for you to get a good feel for it. And as far as I feel for how much money you can make, how soon you can get it, what does it take to get there? And that's another one of my mistakes that you don't want to make a mistake of is not speaking with enough franchisees so you get that information so you know or have a pretty good feel for what it's going to take to get you where you want to be on that. Also, funding is a good thing. We talked about using other people's money, the SBA loans, term loans. You can also use your own money as far as a 401k or an IRA rollover, where you're using your retirement money to invest in a business. Now you're not going into debt. Definitely a personal decision, one way or the other. I use my 401k money from my previous employer to invest in my business on that one. But a lot of my investors really like using other people's money. Personal decision, but always look into the different aspects of funding so you can get some comparisons. And last but not least, not making use of free experts. There's experts out there like you, Russ, a business coach or business consultant out there. Good people to use, good people to talk to about getting a business started. Your SCORE chapter, SCORE, your local SCORE chapter. I use those folks when I was getting into my franchise business. They're all people that have been in business for a number of years, so local to your area, and they're a free service. And I went and talked to them about the different franchises I was looking into to get their advice as well.
Great. I like the thing that you started with about the experience is, a person has worked in a garage, fixing cars for many, many years. And then he's thinking about, wants to have his own business. He'd been an employee thinking about having his own business and meets with you and talks about his background, talks about his interests and so on. And you end up saying, well, based on you, these are some good options for you, none of which are owning a service garage. And the guy says, what are you talking about? I've not been in that business. I don't know anything about it. And your answer is no problem. You will learn everything you need to learn and more about how to run this business. I think that is really cool that a person does not have to come from the background of what it is that they're considering investing in as far as their own business is concerned. And I think you indicated that the franchise companies are more interested in somebody that can grow that business than work that business on a day-to-day basis. Let's say it's a fast food restaurant. They want more of an administrator, a manager, than they do somebody to run the front counter. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
They really want you to be out there shaking hands, getting involved in the community, and letting them know that you're the local owner or operator of that business on that.
Yeah.
Not actually in there working on the vehicles, doing the handyman services, painting, flipping burgers.
Whole different mentality that folks that are listening and watching, keep that in mind. Just because you come from a background doesn't mean that's what you got to go into. I think about the person that, he loves working on cars, so he's going to open up a garage and fix cars. Well, he goes broke. He goes broke not because he doesn't know how to fix cars. He goes broke because he's a poor business owner. He doesn't know how to own and operate a business. Whereas the franchise route is going to make sure that he's equipped in every aspect of owning and operating and growing that business. I think it's a cool deal. Now you mentioned income, income goals and so on. Am I correct in thinking that the franchisor is not able to make guarantees of income to a prospective franchisee? They have to be very careful about that, making any promises. Am I right?
You're absolutely correct, Russ. Way back when franchising first started, unfortunately, there was a few nefarious characters out there that just made that guarantee and said, "You, this is the amount of money that you can make if you invest in that franchise." The Federal Trade Commission had to step in. The FTC did and said, if you do not collect that information from your franchisees, you cannot tell people how much they can make. And you cannot, obviously, you can't guarantee it. There's no guarantee, Russ, that you're going to get up in the morning. We can't guarantee
Uh-huh.
that. You can tell everybody that you're going to, but there's no guarantee that you will. So they cannot make any guarantees whatsoever. However, in their franchise disclosure documents, according to the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, if you gather that information and put it in your franchise disclosure documents, then you can tell people that. So you'll have a good idea as you're going through there, when you go through the franchise disclosure documents and go through the investigation process with me, what the other franchisees are making. So you'll know what they're making. Then what you're going to do is, as we indicated before, you're going to talk to other franchisees. You're going to verify, validate that information that the franchise told you. I have a list of questions for you for the franchisors and for the franchisees. One of those questions is, how much did you make? How long did it take you to get there? And what do you got to do to get it? And keep in mind, every franchisee has been in your position at one point in time. They all want to know that question. They all ask that same question. And for good or bad, franchisees and the franchisors that I work with, they're brutally honest. They'll tell you exactly what it takes and what you got to do to get there. And it's all about education. Then you decide if, yeah, I can do that, or nope.
That's really cool. To have that, to be able to ask those questions, and evidently the franchisees are willing to talk about their experience with the franchisor and with the operation of their business. It's not a closed thing. Well, you're a competitor of mine and I'm not going to tell you anything. So they're more open than what a person would think. That's really great.
That's right, Russ, because nobody's, for the most part, in probably 95% of the franchises, the other franchisees are not your competitors, because each franchise gives out a protected territory on it. So no other franchisees come into that territory. So nobody's ever competing with each other. They're all big part of one big team, one big tribe, where everybody's trying to build up the name of that franchise business.
Yeah.
So not only do you have that franchisor helping you build that business, now you've talked to many of the other franchisees, you made many other friends. Now you've got a whole group of people that all had the same goal, and nobody's competing with each other. So everybody helps everybody build that business.
That's really neat. Is that territory thing, does that hold true for more of an online franchise operation, where it's not, you're working remotely basically for the customers? And so literally you could be any place in the country. How does that work? Or does that not pertain, the territory thing?
If you, for the few online businesses that we do have, that territory thing does not pertain to that.
Okay.
It's going to be more for when the franchise wants you in that local service area, whether it be a brick and mortar where you have a 1 or 2 mile radius as your territory, or say you do a plumbing or electrical franchise or business cleaning franchise. They're going to have you in a certain city, and certain demographics are going to be in there. So let's take an example. Let's take senior care business, for example. They're going to give you 30,000 seniors as your territory. So geographically, that could be a small area or a large area, depending on your population density on there. So they'll give you that in there. And the same thing with the service industry. They'll have they'll be looking at household incomes of 100,000 or more, and they're going to be looking at 100,000, 200,000 households as your territory for that, because they want you to make a good figure. They want you to get into 6 figures for an income on that, because that's what people look for. So they'll give you the territory size to do it, and no other franchisees will be able to come into that territory. They'll have it all marked out.
All right. Good deal. Protected. Yeah. Otherwise, I've always said too that, a person is in business for themselves and they're by themselves, but not with this operation. You're in business for yourself, but you've got a partner, so to speak. You've got a big brother, somebody that's going to help you out and for the long haul, as far as that goes. Lastly, one of the points you had here was, or where did I see that, in fact? Okay, second to the last thing. Exit strategy. They are typically, franchises are willable, definitely transferable, I assume. I could sell my franchise to another individual, but if I choose just to will it to my kids, is that permissible? Or has that got hoops and pitfalls in that situation?
You can sell it, you can will it, you can do all those things. However, whoever's taken over that franchise still has to go through the process with the franchisor as far as whether or not they are qualified to run that franchise.
I see. Okay. Makes sense, because
Yep.
everybody wants to maintain the longevity of the business, and the franchise, or they have the final say. So if I say, okay, to my daughter, this business is yours, franchisor says, you know what, she's really not qualified, Russ. You better come up with another exit strategy, basically. All right. Now I have a business making millions and millions of dollars, and I see the possibility for expansion. I could open up some other shops, some other offices or whatever around the state, around the country. But what about this franchise option? Instead of just doing it on my own, creating a franchise, that is a doable thing. Are there criteria for that? How does that thing work if I want to turn my business into a franchise and sell licenses, basically? That's basically what Grant Cardone did with the licensee program that I'm part of. It's not called a franchise, but it's, similar to that, I guess you could say. So is that a challenging thing? It's probably a lot of legal mumble jumbles and loopholes to go through to make that happen, but it's definitely a feasible thing, huh?
Yes, all of the above for us. It definitely is. And I've got a group of people that'll do that for you. I've turned a couple of businesses into franchise or help them along the way. So my team of people will do that. They will get all that legal stuff out of the way for you. Again, it's about $50,000 to turn your business into a franchise. So they're going to come up with the operations manuals. They're going to come up with the franchise disclosure documents. They're going to help you get registered in the states and registered in. There's some states you don't have to get registered in, all that legal stuff. But they're going to make it so that you can sell franchises for that. And it's really not too terribly difficult, according to the couple of people that I help with them. They're just, they go through the process and they help you out with that. And they get you going. The criteria that you mentioned, those are the kind of things that we're looking for. There is the things that like my potential clients, like you, Russ, if you came to me and looked at a franchise, there's some things that you want to see. So what we tell folks when they want to turn their business into a franchise, if they want to make certain that they're going to get plenty of people that are interested in becoming franchisees, is the first thing is whatever business, whatever you're selling, whatever service, whatever you're offering, can it be used in most every city and state in the U.S.? Because if it can, then you've got the potential to go throughout the United States.
Yeah.
Now,
Is it duplicatable?
Yeah.
Is it duplicatable? Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of them, like say, if you rent boats, okay, I believe there's a boat renting franchise out there somewhere. Obviously, that one is still doable, but you're going to be restricted to certain areas. It's not going to be every city and state that necessarily that you're going to go into it. So we like to say, if it can be duplicated in every city and state, that's a good starting point. One location is good. If you have got more locations, if you've already duplicated it another time or 3 times, 2 or 3 times, it's a little bit more appealing to people when they've seen that you've duplicated already and you've got a couple of locations, 2, 3 locations up. Not absolutely necessary, but definitely gives my clients a better feeling for it. And then if you're bringing in, your net is, 100,000 or more, that's also a good feel because people are looking to bring in that 6-figure income. So when you show them your franchise disclosure documents and you've got in there that your corporate locations are bringing in, 100, 200,000 a year, they're looking at that and they're looking good. And also you just want to make certain that the business doesn't revolve around you. on that one, that you're not the
Ah.
one that's operating it on a regular basis, so that they know that it's not going to revolve necessarily around them if they have to. But as long as you've got those criteria, you're off to a really good start on that.
Those are really great points. Yeah, that's good to know for sure. For people that have grown and want to expand, one way to do it is through the franchise concept. So somebody's watching today or listening, just kind of chomping at the bit to go into business for themselves, working for the man for who knows how long. What are you going to tell them? What advice would you have for that individual from your perspective, considering this whole subject here?
Well,
Just
first
real
off,
quick.
if you want information about franchising, just reach out to me. We'll have a talk. If you're not ready to have a talk with me, you can pick up my book, Real Freedom: Why Franchises Are Worth Considering and How They Can Be Used for Building Wealth. On that one, in that book, I walk you through all the steps and the processes that you and I will walk through with some real world examples of people that I have helped. We made it to the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. I was quite surprised on that one. I was pretty amazed that many people actually wanted to read it. So that's good. You go to my website and you can pick up a PDF copy right there for free. If you want a hard copy, just send me your physical address and I'll send you out a copy of my hard copy.
All right, great. So that's the next question. How do people get in contact with you? Email address, phone number, website. Tell us what those are.
You got it. So franchisemaven.com. That's franchise, M-A-V as in Victor, E-N.com. Greg at franchisemaven.com, or just pick up the phone and give me a call at 361-772-6401.
6401. What does Maven mean?
One who collects and dispenses information.
That's what you are. You are a Maven.
Education. It's all about education.
Cool. All right. So we have franchisemaven.com. We have Greg at franchisemaven.com. We have 361-772-6401. Folks, interested in this subject of franchise, becoming a franchisee in virtually any industry, get in contact with Greg. He's going to have some wisdom to share with you, and who knows where this phone call can go. So in the final analysis, in the final statement, last thing you want to comment before we wrap this up?
Yeah, it's good to have options. Just reach out and give me a call. As you can tell, I'll talk your ear off on franchising. I'll answer any questions you have. And again, I'm not here to sell anything. I'm just here to educate you on franchising. Maybe it's right for you. Maybe it's not. We'll figure it out.
There you go. He's open. He's willing to share, willing to listen to your story, and wants to help anybody who's interested in this franchise world. So anyway, there we are, folks. Another episode of Money Talks from yours truly, Russ Thomas from RST Coaching Academy, speaking with my friend Greg Mohr. And thank you, Greg, for your time today, for your background, for the things that you've done and the people that you've helped and the people you're going to help. And so we're going to let you go online here, people, let you go for another week, and we'll be in contact with you. You got anything you want to talk to me about? rstcoachingacademy.com, phone number 386-286-2450, or email at rstcoachingacademy.com. Both of us are at your disposal. We want to see you succeed in every area of your life. And it has a lot to do with money. Can you believe it? It does have a lot to do with money. So you know what? Money doesn't buy happiness, they say, but at least with money, you can have your problems in style. So that's all I'm going to say for today. So it's over and out. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Hi, thanks for being here today for another episode of Money Talks. I hope it was informative and encouraging to you. If it struck a chord in your heart, or if you have any questions or comments, please let us know. Visit us at rstcoachingacademy.com. Call 386-286-2450 or send an email to email@RST Coaching Academy. Thanks again, and until next time, be great.